Hey everybody, welcome to my Analog Project 2012, and for the month of October we're shooting with the Olympus 35 SP. This camera released by Olympus in 1969. It's a 35mm rangefinder camera, and to me it resembles my Canon QL17 GIII, the Canon QL17 GIII to be exact. That camera and this camera have very similar features: weight, size, look, well, almost look. But to me, the cameras are almost the same. They both have automatic settings. Both have a full manual mode, can operate without a battery. So, I have a soft spot for this camera right here based on that full manual mode, um, uh, capabilities of this camera. So once around on this camera, there's a lot going on. Once again, it's a 35mm rangefinder camera. It has a 42mm Zuiko lens that shoots at f1.7, tops out at f16. The Zuiko glass, nice, gives you some pretty clean, sharp images. The camera has a shutter speed range from bulb all the way up to 500th of a second. Once again, you can select your f-stops over here, and you have a focusing ring. The camera also has a PC sync port for a flash here on the front. And in between the focusing ring and the f-stop ring, there's a little lever right here to allow you to activate the self-timer. Up here on the top of the camera on the front, you have a couple windows going on here. This one right here allows light into the viewfinder so that your needle can be seen. It basically illuminates the exposure value needle that swings across the top of the viewfinder. This one right here is the light meter window that allows light to come in, and the meter will read the light to help you get your proper exposure. You have a viewfinder, and then over here there's another CDS metering cell over here on this little window right here on the side. On the top of the camera, we have the film rewind crank. Allows you to wind your film back into the canister. A flash hot shoe. This lever advances and cocks the shutter. Advances the film, I should say, and cocks the shutter. You have a shutter release button and your frame counter right there. On the back, of course, the viewfinder. And then there's a welcome addition right here. This is a spot meter. You press that button, and you can take a meter reading of your subject or subjects, if you will. So basically, let's assume you have a subject that's backlit. So the dark part of the subject, the front of the subject is dark and the back is light. You can put this camera up close, press the button, take a reading, and take a picture based on the reading of the darker area that you're metering. So it's a nice addition when you're taking pictures, to have that ability to do a spot meter. You just don't see that on a lot of cameras these days. On the bottom, we have the button to activate the rewind, so you can wind your film back into the canister with the rewind crank. Of course, the tripod socket, the battery. There's a lever right here. You pull that down, and you can open up the back to put your film in. And there's a dial here to allow you to choose your f-stops. Sorry, not your f-stops, your ISO. So it's done here on the side of the camera. So in order to operate this camera, like I said, it has a couple different modes here. You can set this camera up for a full automatic mode. If you look closer, let me adjust this focus here. If you look closer, there's a red A that you can line up with the hash mark. If you look, there's an A on the f-stop ring that lines up with a red hash mark. And then you take your shutter speed dial and you keep rotating it until a little window shows up, and you'll see a little A in there as well. So now you have dual A's. You have an A here on the shutter speed dial and an A on the f-stop dial. When you have those two, you're in full automatic mode. You just focus and shoot, and the camera takes care of everything else, and you don't have to worry about anything. But if you want to do full manual, you can swing your f-stop dial over to an f-stop and pick your own shutter speed and go from there if you're confident about what you're doing, which isn't all that hard to do. But the meter inside this camera still functions. It has a guide numbers or exposure values on the top of the viewfinder inside, and I think it goes from like EV3 all the way up to 17, something like that. So you let that meter do its thing. It'll give you a number, say exposure value 11. All right, so you pick your shutter speed based on your lighting conditions. Let's say most of the time it's like 250 of a second when you're outdoors, or maybe 500 of a second. But let's say the EV value swings to 11. You just rotate your f-stop ring until the 11 shows up in the little window, and once you get that 11, you're good to go. The camera will set its exposure correctly based on that number, and you just take your picture. So it's pretty simple. I typically use this camera in full manual mode. Occasionally I'll use it in full automatic mode when I'm just too busy and I just want to snap pictures and not be worried about it. But the camera is real easy to use. Fun camera, and best of all, it works without a battery in full manual mode, which is always a welcome addition to any camera collection, is to not have to worry about battery. So there you go. This is the Olympus 35 SP, shooting with it for the month of October in my Analog Project 2012. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month with another camera.